Last time on this story, a mafia boss fried eggs for a daughter who didn't ask him to, and who disliked him for a genuine reason, and you may not entirely fault her for that. A Jamaican teacher got baptized by a puddle, a road water, and didn't flinch. Two 12-year-olds started a rivalry nobody asked for and everyone enjoyed. A school gate became a battlefield, and a girl who never asked for anything asked for one thing, her, the same woman her dad splashed road water on. So here he is, no car, no Jongsu, no backup, standing outside a school gate like a regular human being, about to ask a woman who has dismissed him 3 times for a favor, voluntarily. If you're new here, please hit the subscription and notification bell, as this is the only way you can support us. If you missed part 1, the link would be posted on the comments section. She laughed. Not long, not cruel, just short and genuine, and completely from the gut. The laugh of a woman looking at a situation and finding it almost unreasonably remarkable. Lee stands there and takes it, which, if you know anything about Kang Lee, is itself remarkable. You, she says. Yes. Want to hire me? Yes. After telling me this morning, I know what I said this morning, that I wasn't suitable. I said more suitable. There's a difference. There really isn't, she says pleasantly. He exhales through his nose, takes his hands out of his coat pockets, puts them back in. I was wrong, he says. She tilts her head. I'm sorry. You heard me. I did, she says. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't imagining it. Ms. Campbell, say it one more time, she says. Clearly, for the record. His jaw tightens by approximately 1 millimeter. I was wrong, he says again. Each word its own sentence, dragged out from somewhere it clearly did not want to leave. About the suitable comment, it was unnecessary. She studies him. The way she studies her students when she's deciding whether they actually understand something or are just performing understanding. Suya asked you to come here, she says. He says nothing, which is a yes. She asked you, Ashley repeats slowly, and you came. Without the car, without your people. Still nothing. She shifts her bag, looks at the ground for 1 second, then back at him, and something shifts in her face, barely visible. The kind of shift that only happens when a person sees something they weren't expecting and can't quite dismiss it. Because here is what Ashley Campbell knows about parents. She has taught long enough to have seen every kind, the ones who show up to everything and understand nothing, the ones who never show up and blame the school, the ones who send emails at 11 p.m. and phone calls at 7 a.m. and treat teachers like customer service, and then, rarely, the ones who swallow something enormous and show up anyway, because their child asked. She doesn't say any of this out loud. My rate, she says instead, is not cheap. Name it. She names it. Triple, he says, without blinking. She blinks. Triple. 4 sessions a week, at the house. She sets the schedule. You want to pay me triple my rate. I want my daughter to stop scoring 38. You're apparently the person for that. A pause. I don't negotiate down. Mr. Lee, I also don't ask twice, he says. So whatever your answer is, I take it back. I'm not tutoring your daughter again, she says sharply. Ashley immediately switched up the moment Lee said, he doesn't ask twice, and whatever her answer is. She found it quite disrespectful, and she wouldn't allow him play the bossy thing on her. Lee immediately read all that just happened the same way he reads his enemies before they make their move. He had noticed what he had said came out wrongly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I will patiently wait for your answer." She shifts her bag again, gold earrings catching the afternoon light. "I'll tutor Suya," she says, not because of the triple rate, because she is sharp and she deserves to know it in every subject. The finger comes up, not aggressive, just clear. "But when I am in your house working with your daughter, I work my way. You don't sit in. You don't redirect. You don't override my methods because you've read something on the internet at midnight. Fine. And the puddle, Ms. Campbell, and the car park this morning." She continues without missing a beat. "And whatever this," she gestures precisely between them, "is, stays outside. When I walk through that door, I am Suya's tutor, not your problem and not your opponent. Are we clear?" He looks at her for a long moment. "Crystal. Good." She pulls out her phone. "I'll need the address," he tells her. She types it without reacting. It is the kind of address that makes people react. She does not react. She pockets her phone, adjusts her bag one final time. "First session Monday," she says. "Tell Suya to have her last 3 tests ready." She walks toward her car. "Ms. Campbell," she turns. "Thank you." She looks at him for exactly 3 seconds. Something in his face that is not the car window face, not the school gate face, not any of the faces she has seen so far. Just a man, saying thank you and meaning it. "You're welcome, Mr. Lee," she says. She gets in her car. Steve is in the passenger seat. He watched the whole thing. His mouth is open approximately half an inch. "Mum, don't." Was that Steve? Did he just stand there and, "I will leave you on this pavement"? We're already in the car. Stephen. He faces forward, presses his lips together. 5 seconds. "So when do we start?" She pulls into traffic. "When do I start?" she corrected. He nods slowly, with the energy of a boy whose brain is already 3 steps ahead of everyone in this car. "Interesting," he says quietly. "Don't," she says. "I'm not doing anything." "Stephen Campbell, I have known your face since it was 3 minutes old, and that is not your neutral face." "Mum," he says, the picture of innocence. "I'm just glad Suya is getting help with her maths. Purely academically motivated. Nothing else going on in my head whatsoever." Ashley looks at him sideways. He looks out the window, smiling. He stands there for a moment. He just triple paid a woman who has dismissed him, voluntarily, in person, without Yong-soo. He walks back to his car, gets in, sits, starts the engine. And then, alone, unwitnessed, with nobody to report it to, anybody, something crosses his face. Not a smile, not quite, but in the neighborhood of one. He drives home. Now. Suya was upstairs when he got home. He knocked on her door, told her, Monday, 4 sessions a week. She sets the schedule. Suya listened, nodded once, and turned back to her book. But before she turned, and after he closed the door, she sat at her desk for a long, quiet moment. Not reading, just sitting, thinking about a man who parked his car down the road, so the woman he needed to ask a favor from wouldn't see it and walk away before he got the chance. She thought about that for a long time. She didn't know what to do with it yet, but she filed it away, carefully. The way you file something that might matter later. It's a Monday evening. Ashley's silver car pulls up outside the gate. She sits in it for 3 full seconds, looking at the house, It is not a house. It is the architectural equivalent of a man saying, "I have money," without opening his mouth. High walls, security cameras that are not pretending to be anything else. A gate that opens before she reaches the intercom because they saw her coming. Of course they saw her coming. She gets out, straightens her blazer. "Mom," Steve says from the passenger seat, "you are staying in this car." "What? Why?" "Tutoring session, not a social visit." "But Suya, we'll see you at school tomorrow." "I could help." "You could distract. Different thing. Car." He slumps. She walks through the gate. Lee is in his study, working. He is absolutely working, and is in no way aware of the exact minute she was supposed to arrive, or the sound of the gate just now. His phone buzzes. "She's here, sir," Jong-soo said. He puts the phone face down, picks it up. "Living room or study, sir?" "Living room." "The big one," Lee said. "Tea or coffee, sir?" Jong-soo asked. "Ask her," Lee said. "Yes, sir. And should you come down to—" "No," Lee said. "Understood, sir," Jong-soo said. 3 seconds. "Jong-soo, is she here yet?" "You told me to take her to the living room," Jong-soo said. "I know what I told you, Jong-soo." "Yes, sir, she is here," Jong-soo finally said. Lee puts the phone down, picks up his document, reads the same paragraph 3 times, puts the document down. At the living room, Jong-soo leads Ashley in with the careful professionalism of a man navigating something he has not been fully briefed on and has learned not to ask about. Ashley walks in, takes it in quietly, quickly, the way she takes in a new classroom, noting the space, the light, the layout, filing it. "Coffee, please," she tells Jong-soo. "Black." "Of course, Ms. Campbell." He disappears. She sets her bag on the table, looks around once more. "Right," she says to herself. Suya has been ready for 23 minutes. Textbooks stacked. Last 3 tests on top, exactly as requested. Pencil case, calculator, ruler, because she is thorough. She sits on her bed, waits 4 more minutes so it doesn't look like she's been ready for 23. Then she comes downstairs. Ashley is setting up when Suya appears. Papers out. A small portable whiteboard she brought herself. Compact, fits on any surface. Suya looks at the whiteboard. "You brought your own." "Your father's walls look expensive," Ashley says. "I'm not writing on them." The corner of Suya's mouth moves, not quite a smile, but adjacent. "Smart." "Always." Ashley nods at the chair across from her. "Sit." Tests. Suya sits, slides the 3 tests across. Ashley looks at the first one. Quiet. Second one. Still quiet. Third one. She exhales through her nose in a way that is not quite a sigh, but carries the same information. "Okay," she says. "Bad? Honest?" "Always." "You're making the same error," Ashley says, "in 3 different ways across all 3 papers." "That sounds bad." "It's actually good." Suya looks at her. "How is that good?" "Because random errors are a nightmare. A pattern is fixable." Ashley taps the papers. "You rush the moment you think you understand. Your brain moves fast. The second you see the shape of a problem, you go, and you skip the step that catches the mistake." Suya stares at the papers, hates that this is accurate. "So I'm too fast." "You're too confident, too quickly." Ashley looks at her evenly, which I suspect is not a problem unique to mathematics. Suya looks up. Ashley looks back, completely calm, completely correct. "Let's start," Ashley says. 40 minutes into the lesson, and it is going well. This is the thing nobody warned Suya about mathematics, that it might just be the teacher. that the same numbers that looked like a personal attack last month are, under Ashley's instruction, starting to look like something she can negotiate with. Ashley doesn't teach at her. She teaches with her, asks what she sees before telling her what's there, waits, gives her room to find it herself. It is working. It is deeply, profoundly annoying how much it is working. Steve lasts 19 minutes. Then he gets out of the car, walks to the gate, rings the intercom. Yong-Soo's voice. Yes? Hi, Steve Campbell. I have Suya's. I left something at school that belongs to Suya, and she needs it for tomorrow. A pause. A long pause. The kind of pause that means the person on the other end is deciding something. One moment. The gate opens. Steve straightens his untucked shirt, walks through. Ashley is mid-explanation when she hears footsteps. She turns. Steve appears in the doorway, hands in pockets, the picture of casual innocence. Hey, he says. Ashley looks at him the way a woman looks at something she already knew was going to happen. You have Suya's something? Yes. That she left at school. Suya. Ashley doesn't look away from her son. Did you leave anything at school today? Suya looks at Steve. Steve looks at Suya. His eyes are doing considerable work. No, Suya says. Steve closes his eyes for exactly 1 second. Sit down, Ashley says. Since you're apparently here. He sits. Immediately, before she changes her mind. He drops into the seat beside Suya, pulls out his phone, and she looks at him sideways. The thing you left at school. Not me, she says quietly. I panicked, he whispers. You lasted 19 minutes. It was a long 19 minutes. You are genuinely unbelievable. I prefer resourceful. I prefer you'd stayed in the car. And yet here we both are. I can hear you both, Ashley says, without looking up from her papers. Silence. Yong-Soo appears in the doorway. Sir. What? The Campbell boy is here. Lee looks up slowly. Why? He said he had something of Miss Suya's from school. Did she leave something at school? Yong-Soo's expression does something careful. Miss Campbell asked the same question, sir. And? Miss Suya said no, sir. Lee looks at Yong-Soo. Yong-Soo looks at Lee. Is he causing problems? He's sitting quietly, sir. Lee looks back at his document. Bring them something to eat. Yong-Soo blinks. Food, sir. They're studying. People eat when they study. Figure it out. Yes, sir. Yong-Soo turns. Yong-Soo. Sir. Don't make it weird. Understood, sir. There is fruit on the table. Biscuits, 2 glasses of juice. Nobody has acknowledged where these came from. The session has evolved. Ashley is explaining a new concept. Suya is working through it carefully this time. Slower, checking each step, not rushing ahead of herself. Steve is watching. Quietly, which lasts approximately 4 minutes. You dropped a negative, he says. Suya stops, looks at her working. Line 3. She dropped a negative. I see it. Line 3. I said, I see it. Just making sure. Stephen, I see it. She fixes it. Gets the right answer. Moves forward with the composure of someone who would like the last 15 seconds to be removed from the historical record. Steve takes a biscuit. You're actually getting it though, he says, genuinely. No tease in it at all. She glances at him. Don't sound surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm impressed. Those are different. That's just surprise with better branding. Okay, first of all, children, Ashley says. They both face forward. Some minutes later, Ashley packs her whiteboard. Suya stacks her books. It was a good session. Both of them know it. Neither makes a large thing of it. Wednesday, Ashley says. Same time. Okay. Read chapter 4 before then. Don't do the exercises. Just read it. Just read it. I want your brain to sit with the shape of it before we work on it. You think better when you've had time to absorb first. Suya looks at her. How do you know that? Because you're me, Ashley says simply. 20 years ago, minus the maths problem. She picks up her bag. Ms. Campbell, Ashley turns. It made sense today. Quiet, matter of fact, not gushing. Suya doesn't gush. The maths, it made sense. Ashley looks at her for a moment. It'll keep making sense, she says. I promise. She says it the way you say something you fully intend to keep. Suya nods. At the hallway, Lee is coming downstairs, not because the session is ending. He just happens to be coming downstairs. Ashley comes out of the living room. They see each other. The hallway does what hallways do when two people who have unresolved energy between them are suddenly in one. Mr. Lee. Ms. Campbell. He stops on the last step. How was it? Good. Good. She's sharp. The problem is small and completely fixable. Right. She just needs to slow down and trust herself. Right. A pause. He is not good at hallways, not good at this specific kind of conversation with this specific woman in his house. Right. Good. She waits to see if there's more. There isn't. Wednesday then, she says. Wednesday. She walks to the door. Steve is behind her, biscuit in hand, and has the presence of mind to look at Lee as he passes. Good house, Steve says. Lee looks at him. Thank you. Steve nods with the dignity of a young diplomat, follows his mother out. The door closes. Suya appears from the living room, sees him standing there. He straightens. How was it? He asks. She looks at him, then at the closed door, then back at him. Good, she says. She goes upstairs. He stands in the hallway. One word. Good. It hurts him, but he'll take it. And so it began. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Ashley and her portable whiteboard. Suya and her pattern of rushing. Steve and his complete constitutional inability to stay in a car. And Lee, hovering at the edges of his own house like a man who forgot the Wi-Fi password. Sessions 2, 3, 4 came and went. Suya's scores started climbing. Slowly. Then noticeably. Then impressively. The maths was working. But something else was working too. Something quieter. Something nobody had planned for. The house, which had always felt like a hotel, was starting to feel like something else. Not because anything dramatic happened, but because Ashley Campbell laughed in it, and Suya laughed back, and Lee, upstairs in his study pretending to read documents, heard it. Both times. And both times. He stopped pretending to read. Another session of tutorship. But this session ran late. Not because anyone planned it, but because Suya had cracked something. A concept that had been sitting sideways in her brain for 3 weeks. And Ashley wasn't going to stop in the middle of that for a clock. Steve had long since abandoned any pretense of waiting in the car and was now a permanent fixture on the living room sofa, doing his own homework beside Suya, and occasionally making observations about her working that she occasionally, very occasionally, found useful and would never admit to finding useful. It was, by any measure, a good evening. Lee is upstairs. He's on a call. Not the kind of call that involves pleasantries, the kind that involves short questions, shorter answers, and the particular quality of silence that means something is wrong and the person on the other end is deciding how wrong. He is standing at the window. His posture has changed, not the careful composure of a man in a school gate or a hallway. Something older, something that lives underneath all of that. The man who built the empire. How many? He says. A pause. When? Another pause. His jaw sets. Don't move. I'm coming. He hangs up, turns from the window, and stops. Because downstairs, muffled through the floor, he can hear Ashley explaining something. The particular rhythm of her teaching voice. Patient. Building. And then Suya's response. Shorter. Sharper. And then Steve saying something that makes them both laugh. He stands there for exactly 3 seconds. Then he picks up his phone and calls Jong-soo. Get the car and get Park and Kim up here now. Sir, is it now? Jong-soo. Ashley is downstairs, writing something on the whiteboard when she hears the front door open and close. Then open again. Then voices in the hallway. Low. Quick. The kind of voices that are being kept low deliberately. She puts the marker down. Suya has gone still. Not the still of a girl doing maths. A different still. The still of a girl who has lived in this house long enough to know the difference between normal sounds and other sounds. Suya, Ashley says quietly. It's fine, Suya says. She says it the way people say things that might not be fine. Lee comes down the stairs in his coat. He stops when he sees the living room door open. Ashley is standing in the doorway. Behind her, Suya and Steve, both visible, both looking at him. He looks at all 3 of them, then at Jong-soo behind him, then back at Ashley. I need to go out, he says. Okay, she says, watching him. The session is almost done, she says. We're fine. He looks past her at Suya. I'll be back. Suya looks at him. Okay. One word, the same word she always uses. But something in the way she says it tonight is different. Like she is asking a question inside the word and hoping the answer is yes. He holds her gaze for 1 second. I'll be back, he says again. Quieter. Just for her. He turns to Jong-soo. And that is when it happens. The front windows explode inward. Not 1, 3, simultaneously. The kind of coordinated that means this was planned. Glass across the hallway floor. An alarm screaming from somewhere in the walls. Jong-soo has Lee by the arm before the glass finishes falling. Sir, the living room. Lee is already turning. Sir, we need to move. The living room. Jong-soo. He pulls free. 3 steps back to the living room doorway. Ashley has Suya and Steve against the far wall away from the windows, her arms out in front of both of them, her body between them and the broken glass. She is not screaming. She is not panicking. She is standing in front of 2 children with the focused stillness of a woman who has made a decision about what her body is for. Lee takes in the scene in 1 second. Back of the house, he says. Now. Jong-soo, already moving, sir. Both of them. Sir. All 3 of them. Jong-soo. Move. The next 4 minutes are not quiet. Shouting from outside. More glass. The heavy sound of doors being secured. Lee's men appearing from what feels like everywhere, which means they were always there, which means this house has never been as civilian as it looked. Ashley moves with Jong-soo, one hand on Suya's shoulder, one on Steve's back, not gripping, guiding, her voice low and even the entire time. Look at me, she tells them both. Not at the windows, at me. They look at her. Good. Keep moving. Steve is breathing fast but moving. Suya is calm. Not the calm of a child in shock. The calm of a child who has spent years developing the ability to go somewhere internal when the external becomes too much. Ashley notices this, files it. Young-soo gets them into a room at the back of the house. Thick walls, no external windows. 2 of Lee's men outside the door. Ashley sits Suya down. Then Steve. Then she crouches in front of them both. Checks them. Eyes. Hands. Breathing. "You're okay," she says. "Both of you. You're okay." Steve nods. His leg is bouncing. Suya is looking at the door. "Suya." She looks at Ashley. "You're okay." "I know," Suya says. "Do you?" "A beat." "I don't know," Suya says honestly. Ashley sits beside her. Doesn't say anything for a moment. Just sits. Close enough that their shoulders are almost touching. It is the most deliberate thing she has done all evening. Lee is on his phone. The call lasts 90 seconds. When it ends, he stands in the hallway for a moment. The kind of moment where a man takes stock of something. 3 people in that room. 1 of them, his daughter. 2 of them. Because of him. Because of what he is and what he has built, and every decision that led to this hallway on this Wednesday night. He walks to the secured room. Knocks once. "It's me." Young-soo opens the door. Lee steps in. His eyes go to Suya first. She is sitting beside Ashley, still, looking at him. "Are you hurt?" he says. "No." He looks at Steve. "You?" "No, sir," Steve says. Which is the first time he has called Lee sir, and nobody mentions it. Lee looks at Ashley last. She is looking back at him. Not with fear, not with anger, with something more complicated than either of those things. The expression of a woman processing an evening she did not sign up for and doing it out loud with her face. "Are you?" "Fine," she says. "We're all fine." He nods. "It's handled," he says. "It won't." "Mr. Lee." He stops. "Not right now," she says quietly, glancing at the children. "Okay? Not right now." He looks at the children. Suya watching him. Steve watching him. "Okay," he says. He sits down, not across the room, not in the doorway, in the room. Beside Suya, close enough that she could lean into him if she wanted to. She doesn't, but she doesn't move away either. And in this house, between these 2 people, that is everything, especially to Lee. They stayed in that room for 40 minutes. Young-soo brought water. Steve, because Steve cannot help himself even in a crisis, eventually asked if there were any more biscuits. There were. Young-soo brought those too. And somewhere in those 40 minutes, between the water and the biscuits and the quiet, something shifted. Not dramatically. Not with a speech or a moment or a swelling of music. Just 4 people in a room. 1 crisis. And the specific intimacy that comes from being frightened together and choosing to stay. Lee looked at Ashley once, across the room, over the children's heads. She was already looking at him. Neither of them looked away immediately, which, for 2 people who had been looking away from each other since a puddle on a Tuesday, was something. The house is quiet now. The kind of quiet that comes after chaos has been cleaned up, and the people doing the cleaning have been instructed not to discuss it. The broken windows have been boarded, the glass swept. Lee's men positioned at intervals around the property, with the practiced efficiency of people who have done this before. Everything looks almost normal. Almost. Ashley is in the living room. Her whiteboard is still on the table, her papers still stacked. The session that never properly ended sitting in the middle of the room like an unanswered question. She is standing at the boarded window with her arms folded and her coffee, long cold, held in one hand, not looking at anything specific, just standing and thinking with the focused internal energy of a woman running calculations. Steve is asleep on the sofa. He lasted until 9:15 before the adrenaline wore off completely and took him with it. He is now horizontal with his school shoes still on and his mouth slightly open, looking approximately 8 years old. Suya went upstairs an hour ago. She said goodnight to Ashley, properly, not the half word she gives Lee, and went up without being asked, which Ashley noticed and filed, along with everything else from tonight that she is currently processing. She hears footsteps. Lee appears in the doorway, jacket off, tie loosened. The careful architecture of Kang Lee slightly, not much, but slightly, undone. He looks at Steve on the sofa. He can sleep there, Lee says. He'll be fine. I'll have Jong-soo get a... He's fine, Mr. Lee. He stops, looks at her standing at the boarded window, comes into the room, doesn't sit, stands on the other side of the table from her, the whiteboard between them. Suya's pencil still on the table from the session. The silence lasts a moment. I owe you an explanation, he says. Yes, she says. You do. He looks at the table. My work. I know what your work is, she says evenly. I'm not naive, Mr. Lee. I've been coming to this house for 2 weeks. I've seen the man at the gate. I've seen how Jong-soo stands in doorways. I've seen the cameras. She turns from the window to look at him directly. I know what kind of house this is. He looks at her. Then why did you keep coming? Because Suya is in it, she says simply. And she needed someone. The sentence lands quietly. He absorbs it. Tonight, he starts. Tonight was a message, she says. I understand that. I'm not a child. It won't happen again. You don't know that. I will make sure. You cannot make sure, she says. Not unkindly, just accurately. You can try, but you cannot guarantee it. And those 2 children were in this house tonight when it happened. He has nothing to say to that, because she is right. And he knows she is right. And she knows he knows. I need to move, he says. I've been planning it. There's a property outside the city, more secure, less visible. Okay. I need to move, Suya. Obviously. Soon, within the week. She nods, looks back at the boarded window. Right, she says. I'll arrange for another tutor. Someone closer to the new... No, she turns. He is looking at her with an expression she hasn't seen before. Not the boardroom face, not the school gate face, not the hallway face. Something stripped of all of those. I want you to continue, he says. The new location will be far from... I know. It's not practical for me to... I know. Mr. Lee. There is a separate residence, he says, on the property, private, fully equipped, for you and your son. She stares at him. You want me to relocate? Temporarily. You want me and my son to move on to your property. The residence is completely separate. You would have full privacy, full autonomy. It would be, Mr. Lee. I would triple the current rate, which is already. Mr. Lee. He stops. She is looking at him with the expression she uses when a student has given her an answer that is technically structured correctly and completely wrong. You're asking me to uproot my son, she says, leave our apartment and move onto the secured property of a man whose house was attacked tonight. When you say it like that, how would you like me to say it? He breathes. I would like you to hear the part, he says carefully, where I'm telling you that tonight my daughter sat in a locked room for 40 minutes, and the only reason she wasn't alone in it was you. The room is very quiet. I would like you to hear the part where Suya, who does not ask for things, who has never asked me for a single thing except you, looked at that door tonight, and I know she was thinking about whether you and your son were safe. Ashley is very still. I would like you to hear the part, he says, where I am asking, not instructing, not paying. Asking. He pauses. And then Kang Lee, who does not ask, who has never needed to ask, who built an empire precisely so he would never have to stand in a room and not know the answer, says it. Please. One word, flat, undecorated. Everything. Please come with us. The silence after it is enormous. Ashley looks at him for a long time, reading him the way she reads everything, carefully, thoroughly, looking for the thing underneath the thing. And what she finds underneath is just a man, standing in his undone house with his loosened tie and his boarded windows, asking her not to leave. Not for him, for his daughter. She looks at the whiteboard on the table, at Steve asleep on the sofa with his shoes on, at the pencil Suya left on the table. She sets her cold coffee down. I have conditions, she says. Something moves in his face. Name them. The residence is mine. You don't come to it unless invited. Not for any reason. Agreed. Steve's schooling doesn't get disrupted. If the new location requires a school transfer, I need lead time, and I need it handled properly. Done. I continue to teach at the school. Whatever the distance, that's not negotiable. Yong-Soo will drive you. Both ways. I drive myself. Ms. Campbell, I drive myself, Mr. Lee. A pause. Jong-Soo follows at a distance. She considers this. Fine. Fine. And Suya's sessions continue on her schedule. Not yours, hers. Always, he says. She picks up her tote bag, looks at Steve one more time. I'll tell him in the morning, she says. He'll have questions. I imagine. Approximately 40 of them. I'll make sure Yong-Soo is available to answer. He'll ask me, she says. Not Jong-Soo. Right. She heads for the door. Stops. Doesn't turn fully. Just enough. Mr. Lee. Ms. Campbell. You said, please. A beat. I did. That's the second time in 2 weeks you've done something I didn't expect. She walks out. He stands in the living room. The whiteboard on the table, the pencil, the cold coffee she left behind. Steve snoring slightly on the sofa. He sits down in the chair across from the sofa, and he does something he hasn't done in a very long time. He just sits. Not working, not planning, not managing anything. Just sits in the room where his daughter learned mathematics tonight, and almost smiles. And upstairs, Suya's room. Same time. She is not asleep. She is lying on her bed in the dark, staring at the ceiling with the focused internal stillness of a girl doing calculations that have nothing to do with mathematics. She heard the conversation. Not all of it. The house is large and the walls are thick. But enough. She heard the pleas. She lies there for a long time. And then, quietly, in the dark, with nobody to see it, she lets herself feel something. Just for a moment. Just enough. Then she rolls over, closes her eyes. He said please, she thinks. He actually said please. She doesn't know what to do with that yet, but she keeps it. He said please, to a woman who had dismissed him 4 times, without prompting, without Jong-Soo, without the car or the coat or any of the apparatus, just please. And she said yes. Not because of the triple rate, not because of the separate residence, but because of the way he said it. And because of Suya. Always, underneath everything. Because of Suya. The move happened 4 days later. And that is where things got interesting. New house, new problems. Same two people who won't admit anything. The house is enormous. Not in the showy way of the Seoul house. This is a different kind of money. The kind that doesn't need a city to validate it. Sprawling grounds. Trees that look like they've been there longer than most buildings. A main house that sits at the top of a long private driveway like it is entirely unbothered by the world below it, and set slightly apart, connected by a stone path lined with low garden lights, a separate residence, smaller, warmer looking, 2 floors, its own entrance, its own garden, its own everything. Ashley's silver car is parked in front of it. She sits in it, looking. Steve is beside her, looking too. Mom, don't. I'm just... Stephen, it's very big. I'm aware. Our apartment could fit in that garden. Steve, I'm just noting the size for... Get your bag. Suya is at her desk when she hears a knock. Not on the main house door, on her bedroom door. She opens it. Steve, somehow already inside the main house, somehow already upstairs, looking completely unbothered about both of these facts. How are you in this house? She says. Jong-soo let me in. Why? I asked nicely. He leans against the door frame. Can I come in? You're already in. In your room, specifically. She steps back. He comes in, looks around, looks at her corkboard, looks at her books, looks out her window at the stone path below where Lee is standing slightly in the garden, doing nothing. He watches that for a moment. Then, I don't have a dad, he says. Flat, conversational, like he's noting the weather. Suya looks at him. He left when I was 2, Steve says. So, it's just me and Mum. Suya is quiet for a moment. Looks out the window. He left when I was 2 as well, she says. My father. Yeah. I used to not like him, but somehow there is a crack in my heart now for him. They stand at the window together, looking at the path. The stone path that is the only route between the 2 houses, that Ashley will walk every day, that Lee will walk every day. So, Steve says slowly, you don't have a mum. And you don't have a dad, Suya says. The silence that follows is the specific silence of 2 people arriving at the same place from different directions. Steve looks at Suya. Suya looks at Steve. That's a win-win, Steve says carefully. For everybody. For everybody, Suya agrees. They look back at the path. I'm going to need you to not be obvious about it, Suya says. I'm never obvious. She looks at him. He is currently standing in a stranger's bedroom, having invited himself upstairs after talking his way past security. You are spectacularly obvious, she says, about everything, at all times. Okay, but if we do this, she says, turning to face him fully, we do it carefully, patiently. We arrange conditions. We don't push. We don't interfere directly. We just create the environment, he says. She looks at him, slightly surprised. Yes, she says. Exactly that. He nods slowly, looks back at the path. The path is good, he says. They have to pass each other on it every day. I know, she says. Did you? The garden route is closed for landscaping, she says simply. 4 weeks. Steve stares at her. You already... I suggested it to Jong-soo yesterday. Before we even had this conversation. I've been thinking about it for longer than today. He stares at her for a long moment. Suya. Steve. Are we friends now? She looks out the window. We have a common interest, she says. That's basically friends. It's basically allies. Fine. He holds out his hand. Allies. She looks at his hand, shakes it once. Don't be obvious, she says. You keep saying that. Because I keep meaning it. He grins. She doesn't, but she doesn't not either. Lee is reading, or performing reading. The document in his hands has not changed pages in 11 minutes. Suya comes downstairs, not for any stated reason. She sits on the sofa, across from him, opens her book, reads. Lee was shocked, surprised, because Suya has never sat close to him. They sit like this for 4 minutes. Then, she's good, Suya says. Lee looks up. What? Ms. Campbell. Suya keeps her eyes on her book. She's good. As a person, I mean. Not just the teaching. She's funny. Is she? When she's not in teacher mode. Suya turns a page she hasn't read. She told me today that when she was my age, she argued with her maths teacher so badly the teacher went home and cried. Lee looks at her. That doesn't surprise me. She felt bad about it afterward, Suya says. She apologized, went to the teacher's house and everything. She went to the teacher's house. She said her mother made her. A pause. She talks about her mother a lot. Lee is quiet. She sounds like a good woman, he says carefully. She is, Suya says, simply. She's a very good woman. Silence. Suya turns another unread page. Lee looks back at his document, neither of them reading. You know, Suya says. It says in the Bible. Lee looks up. What does? That it's not good for a man to be alone. She is still looking at her book, completely casual. That God made a woman to be a helpmate to the man, because the man needs one. The room is very still. Suya, I'm just saying what the Bible says. I know the Bible. So you know that part. I know that part. Right. She turns a page. So technically, biblically, you need a helpmate. Suya. And I need a mother. She says it without drama, without performance, just a quiet fact placed on the table between them. I've needed one for a long time. Lee puts his document down, looks at his daughter, who is still looking at her book. 12 years old, saying the thing she has never said. In the most sideways possible way. So, she continues, from a strictly biblical standpoint and a practical one, it would be a win-win for everybody. She closes her book, stands up. Good night, she says, goes upstairs. Lee sits in the living room, alone, wondering what just happened. Suya had never said good night to him. She had never engaged him in a conversation. He just sat there, with his unread document, and his daughter's words sitting on the coffee table between them, like she left them there deliberately. Which she did. She closes her door, sits on her bed, exhales, picks up her phone, texts Steve. I did it. Steve. The Bible thing? Yes. And? He put his document down. That's it? Steve. My father doesn't put things down. He is always doing something. He put it down. A pause. Oh, Steve types. Yes. Oh. Now it's your turn. Ashley is marking. Black pen in hand. Stack of papers. She had stopped using red pen to mark books because in Korea, it is said to be a taboo. She was focused. The specific focused misery of a teacher encountering the same mistake 32 times in 32 different handwritings. Steve comes downstairs, gets a glass of water, sits at the kitchen table across from her, watches her mark. She marks. He watches. She marks. He watches. Steve. You've been sitting there for 9 minutes. I'm hydrating. You finished your water 7 minutes ago. He looks at his empty glass. I'm thinking. About? Things. He spins the glass slightly. Mum. Are you happy? The black pen stops. Ashley looks up. Steve is looking at his glass, spinning it slowly. 12 years old and trying very hard to look like he asked the question casually. Where is this coming from? She says. Nowhere. A pause. Everywhere. Another pause. You work a lot. I like working. I know. He looks up. But you also go to sleep alone every night and wake up alone every morning. And the only adult conversations you have are with teachers at school and Mr. Lee on the path. She puts the black pen down. Stephen, I'm just saying. What are you just saying? I'm saying. He chooses his words with the care of a boy who has practiced this. That you're really good at taking care of other people. You take care of me. You take care of your students. You took care of Suya in that room when the windows... He stops, continues. You're good at it, but who takes care of you? The question sits there. Ashley looks at her son, at his 12-year-old face, trying to be older than it is for this specific conversation. I take care of myself, she says. Mum. Steve. You had crackers for dinner last Tuesday. That was the Tuesday before that, too. I was busy. You lecture Mr. Lee about crackers and nutrition, Steve says. And then you come home and eat crackers. She opens her mouth, closes it. I'm not saying anything specific, Steve says, back to spinning his glass. About anyone specific. I'm just saying, it would be nice for you to have someone who also makes rice. He gets up, takes his glass to the sink. Someone who makes rice, Ashley repeats slowly. For example, Steve. Good night, Mum, he says cheerfully. Love you. He goes upstairs. She sits at the table, black pen in hand, papers in front of her, unread. Someone who makes rice. She looks at the black pen. The rice was good, she thinks, in spite of herself. It genuinely was. She picks the pen back up, marks 3 papers, puts it down. It really was, though. They meet on the path. As they always do now, Lee steps into the garden immediately. She walks past. Morning, she says. Morning. A pause. Did you eat? She turns, looks at him. He's looking at the gate, not at her. Yes, she says. Good. She keeps walking. He keeps walking. From the second-floor window, Steve and Suya, watching. He asked if she ate, Steve breathes. He never asked anyone anything, Suya says. She paused. She always pauses when he does something unexpected. What does the pause mean? It means she noticed. Is noticing good? Noticing, Suya says, is how it starts. Ashley and Suya, mid-session. The whiteboard has 3 problems on it. Suya has solved 2 correctly without rushing. The third is giving her trouble, and she knows exactly why, and Ashley is waiting for her to find it herself. The house is quiet. Steve is in the kitchen with Jong-soo, having discovered that Jong-soo makes excellent ramen and has been exploiting this discovery daily. Lee is in his study, or was. He comes downstairs for coffee, stops at the living room doorway. Ashley is at the whiteboard. Suya is at the table working. It is a completely ordinary session, but the afternoon light is coming through the window at a specific angle, and Ashley is explaining something with her hands. the way she does, drawing the shape of a concept in the air. And Suya is watching her with focused attention, and there is something in the quality of it, something domestic, something that looks from a doorway like something Lee doesn't have a word for yet. He stands there for a moment too long. Ashley turns, sees him. "Mr. Lee." "Lee," he says automatically. They agreed on this. "Lee," she corrects herself. "Coffee is in the kitchen." "I know where the coffee is." "You're standing in the doorway looking at the kitchen." He stops. "I'll get my, coffee." He goes to the kitchen. Suya watches him go, looks at Ashley. Ashley is already back at the whiteboard, but the back of her neck is doing something. Suya files this under the same category as the smile and the corner of the mouth and the pause on the path. The category that is getting quite full. Lee walks in, sees Steve. Steve looks up from his ramyun with the innocent expression of someone who was absolutely just talking about Lee with Jong-soo, and has immediately replaced that conversation with an angelic expression. Jong-soo is very busy with his own bowl. Lee looks between them. "What?" he says. "Nothing, sir," Jong-soo says. "Nothing," Steve agrees. Lee gets his coffee, stands at the counter. "Steve." "Sir." "How's your mother?" Steve looks up, keeps his face very neutral. "She's good," he says. "Works hard, doesn't eat enough." Lee looks at his coffee. "She should eat more." "That's what I tell her," Steve says. "She doesn't listen to me, though. I'm just her son." She might listen to someone else." Pause. "If someone else mentioned it." Lee looks at him. Steve looks at his ramyun. Jong-soo looks at the wall. "Finish your food," Lee says. "Yes, sir." Lee takes his coffee and walks out. Jong-soo waits until the footsteps are gone, looks at Steve. Steve looks at Jong-soo. "Did he ask about her?" Steve says. "He asked about her," Jong-soo confirms. Steve picks up his chopsticks. Jong-soo. "Yes, you're a good man. I try my best. The ramyun is also excellent." "Thank you, Steve." In Suya's room, she texts Steve. He stood in the doorway today and watched her explain a problem. Steve. "For how long?" "Long enough. And he went to get coffee he didn't drink." "How do you know he didn't drink it?" "Because it's still on the kitchen counter. Full. Cold." A pause. Steve. "Suya." "Suya." "Yes." Steve. "I think it's time." Suya. "Time for what?" Steve. "To stop arranging conditions and start arranging situations." Suya looks at the ceiling, thinks about the doorway, the cold coffee, the path, the soup that was a work in progress, the pleas, the rice, the smile nobody officially saw. "Not yet," she types. "When?" "When he looks at her like that and doesn't go to get coffee." What does that mean? It means when he stops making excuses to be near her and just... She stops typing, thinks. "Just what?" Steve types. "Just stays," she finishes. A long pause. "That's either going to be really soon," Steve types, "or really long." "I know. Which do you think?" Suya puts her phone down, looks at the ceiling, thinks about her father standing in a doorway with a cup of coffee he didn't drink. Picks her phone back up. "Really soon," she types. "How sure are you?" "He made soup." She says. "Voluntarily. The man who doesn't cook made soup. For a woman. The soup was a work in progress." Steve. "Yeah. My father does not make works in progress. He makes things that are finished. He makes decisions that are complete." She pauses. "He is making soup that he knows isn't good enough yet, which means he plans to make it again, which means he's already thinking about next time," Steve finishes. Silence. "Oh," Steve types. Yes, Suya says. Oh, lowercase. Oh. Good night, Steve. Good night, Suya. She puts her phone down, closes her eyes. Somewhere in the main house, her father is sitting with a cold cup of coffee. Somewhere on the other side of the stone path, her teacher is sitting with a red pen. Both of them probably not doing what they're pretending to do. She smiles. Again. The real one. The 12-year-old one. It's working, she thinks. It's really working. 2 children. 1 common interest. 1 win-win situation. A biblical argument. A glass of water. A doorway. A cold cup of coffee. A soup that was a work in progress. And 2 adults who were absolutely, completely, 100% not thinking about each other. At all. Constantly. The matchmaking hadn't even gotten intense yet. And it was already working. Which meant, when it did get intense, nobody in this house was ready. Especially not Lee. Especially not Ashley. And especially not Young-soo, who had already decided whose side he was on. It was on a Friday at 4:20 p.m. Ashley is walking to her car. End of the school day, papers under arm, coffee thermos, the usual. A man falls into step beside her. Mr. Han, physics teacher, early 40s, pleasant face. The kind of man who irons his casual shirts and considers this a personality trait. He has been finding reasons to walk Ashley to her car for approximately 2 weeks and has been building towards something with the focused determination of a man who has decided. Today, he decides. Ms. Campbell, Mr. Han, I was wondering, he smiles, if you'd like to have dinner sometime. There's a restaurant near. That's kind of you, Ashley says, not unkindly, just clearly. Just dinner, he says. Mr. Han, you can think about it, he says. No pressure. She looks at him. He is pleasant. He is perfectly pleasant. I'll think about it, she says. She gets in her car. Young-soo watched the whole thing. He picks up his phone, puts it down, picks it up again, puts it down, drives back to the property. Young-soo appears in the doorway. Sir. Ms. Ashley. Miss Campbell is on her way back. Okay. Young-soo stands there. Young-soo. Sir. Is there something else? Young-soo is quiet for 1 moment too long. No, sir. He leaves. Lee watches the doorway for a second. Goes back to his work. Back at home, Steve is doing homework. Ashley comes in. Sets her bag. Down. Gets water. Steve looks at her over his textbook. Good day. Fine. Anything interesting happen? She looks at him. Mr. Han asked me to dinner. Steve's pencil stops. Mr. Han, the physics teacher. Yes, and you said? I said I'd think about it. Mum. Steve. You said you'd think about it. It's a polite answer. It's not a no. It's not a yes either. Mum. He puts his pencil down. Do you actually want to have dinner with Mr. Han, the physics teacher? She drinks her water. He's pleasant. He irons his casual shirts. That's not a flaw. Mum. Steve. Is he the person you want to have dinner with? She looks at her glass. Go finish your homework, she says. That's not a yes, Steve says. It's not a no either, she says. Go finish your homework. He picks his pencil back up, watches her walk to her room, pulls out his phone and typed, "We have a problem." She reads it, types back immediately. What kind of problem? Physics teacher kind. Explain. He explains. She reads it again, puts her phone face down on the desk, picks it up. How did your dad react? I don't know yet. Young-soo drove her, or he drove behind her. He would have seen it. Find out what Young-soo saw. Already on it. Steve. Yeah. Don't panic. I'm not panicking. Your texts are coming in very fast. That's just how I type. Steve. Fine. I'm slightly panicking. Don't. This might actually be useful. How is a physics teacher asking my mum to dinner useful? Because, Sawyer types slowly. Sometimes people don't know what they have until someone else tries to take it. A long pause. Sawyer. Yes. You're 12. I'm aware. How do you know that? I read a lot. What do you read? Good night, Steve. Sawyer. She puts her phone down. The next morning, they meet on the path. Lee steps into the garden. Morning, Ashley says. Morning. She passes him. He doesn't go back to the house immediately. Miss Ashley, she turns. How was school yesterday? She looks at him. Fine. Nothing. Unusual. Something moves in her face. No, she says carefully. Completely normal day. He nods, looks at the gate. Right. Right. She watches him. Why? No reason. She tilts her head. Okay, she says. She walks up to the main house. He stands in the garden. Normal day, she said. Completely normal. He stands there longer than he should. Jong-soo had given him a brief of the physics teacher already, and he was mad, really angry. Lee couldn't understand why he was angry. He couldn't place it. He was jealously angry. In the apartment, Lee walks in. Jong-soo is there. Jong-soo, sir. The physics teacher. Jong-soo blinks. Sir, at the school. Yes, sir. What do you know about him? Jong-soo is carefully, professionally, absolutely neutral. Not much, sir. He teaches physics. He irons his up. Find out. Yes, sir. Lee walks upstairs. Jong-soo stands in the hallway, breathes, pulls out his phone, texts Sawyer. He knows about the physics teacher. Sawyer texts back in 4 seconds. I know. Let him sit with it. Jong-soo looks at this message for a long moment, types back. You are very frightening for a 12-year-old. Thank you, Jong-soo. He puts his phone away, goes to make tea. That evening, in the kitchen, Lee is making rice. Not because it's a scheduled dinner, not because Jong-soo asked him to. He is just making rice. Jong-soo watches from the doorway with the expression of a man watching something remarkable happen naturally. Ashley comes up the path for the evening session, comes through the main house, passes the kitchen, sees Lee at the stove. Session isn't for another 20 minutes, she says. I know. Are you cooking? Rice. I can see that. She pauses. Any particular reason? No particular reason. She puts her bag down. I'll set the table, she says. He turns slightly. You don't have to. I know, she says. I will anyway. She opens the correct cupboard, first try, gets 2 bowls, sets the table. He watches her move around his kitchen like she knows where things are. She does. She has been coming here long enough. The physics teacher, he says. The bowls stop clinking. What about him? She says. He keeps his eyes on the rice. Jong-soo mentioned, Jong-soo told you. Jong-soo drives you, and if he's not driving you, he's following from a distance. Jong-soo, she says, talks too much. He mentioned it in passing. She puts the last bowl down, stands at the table. He asked me to dinner, she says. I said I'd think about it, that's all. Right. It's nothing. Right. Lee. He turns. She is looking at him with the direct, reading look, the one that doesn't miss things. Why do you even care? He didn't say anything. Why are you making rice on a Thursday with no occasion? She says. He looks at the pot. I felt like rice. You felt like rice. Yes. On the same day, Yong-soo mentioned the physics teacher. Those are unrelated, are they? The kitchen is very quiet. Ashley. Lee. He turns fully from the stove, looks at her. She looks back. And there it is. Right there in the kitchen with the rice and the 2 bowls she set without being asked. The thing neither of them has named. Not addressed, not moved on from, not resolved. Just sitting between them, like it's been sitting between them for weeks. Getting louder. He opens his mouth, closes it. The rice is almost done. He says. She breathes out slowly. Okay, she says. She sits down. He turns back to the stove, and neither of them says the thing. But they both know it's there now. Both of them. Officially. Suya's room. Same time. She is not at the security feed. She doesn't need it. She can hear the quiet from upstairs. The specific quality of a quiet that has something in it. She picks up her phone. Steve. Yeah. He made rice again. On a Thursday. On a Thursday. Because of the physics teacher. Because of the physics teacher. A pause. I told you it would be soon, Steve said. You said it would be long. Suya said. I revised my estimate. Steve said. Good night, Steve. Good night, Suya. She puts her phone down, lies back. He made rice. On a Thursday. For no reason, except one reason. The one reason he won't say yet, but will. Soon. Very soon. The physics teacher never got his dinner. Not because anything dramatic happened. Not because Lee did anything. But because Ashley sat in that kitchen with 2 bowls she set herself. And a man who made rice on a Thursday for no reason. And thought about it. Really thought about it. And the answer was already there. Had been there for a while. Living in the path and the soup and the pleas and the doorway and the cold coffee. She just needed the physics teacher to make her look at it directly. The next morning she told Mr. Han very kindly that she appreciated the invitation. But no thank you. Mr. Han took it graciously. Yong-soo reported this to Lee in passing. Lee said, But that evening, the soup, the work-in-progress soup, was considerably better. Suya tasted it, said nothing, but texted Steve 1 word. Soon, 3 days later, late evening, the house is quiet. Steve is asleep in the residence. Suya is in her room. Yong-soo is somewhere being professionally invisible. Lee is in his study. Ashley finished the session an hour ago, but hasn't left yet. She is in the living room with her papers, marking, or attempting to. The black pen has been in her hand for 20 minutes, and the top paper has 1 mark on it. She is thinking. Upstairs, Suya's room, at exactly 10:14 p.m., a knock on her door. She opens it. Lee. Not in his work clothes. Dark, comfortable home clothes. The undone version of himself that only exists after 10 p.m. You're awake, he says. You knocked, she says, which means you knew I was. He almost smiles. Can I come in? She steps back. He comes in, sits on the edge of her desk chair. She sits on her bed. Same positions as the night he said I'll ask her. Except something is different tonight. He looks at his hands. I want to ask you something, he says. Okay, and I need you to answer me honestly. I always answer honestly. I know. He looks up. Are you happy? Here, with me, in this house. She looks at him. A long, reading look. Are you asking about the house? She says. Or are you asking about you? Both. She is quiet for a moment. The house is fine, she says. And me. She pulls her knees up, looks at the fairy lights on her wall. You're trying, she says. I can see that you're trying. That's not an answer. It's the honest one. She looks at him. You left when I was 2. That's a long time to make up for. You can't do it in 1 year. You can't do it with eggs and rice and… She pauses. But you're trying. And I see it. Every day I see it. He looks at his hands again. I know I can't fix it, he says quietly. I know that. I just… He stops. I need you to know that leaving… It wasn't because… I know, she says. You don't… Lee. Quiet, firm. I know. I've known for a long time. You left because you were scared of what would happen to me if you stayed. You were scared you would not be able to take care of me. He looks at her. You were trying to protect me, she says. It was the wrong decision, but I know why you made it. The room is very quiet. I'm not saying I'm not angry, she continues. I am. About the birthdays, about the concerts, about the window. The window. I used to sit at Halmony's window and wait for you. Simple, just a fact. When I was small, something breaks in his face. Not dramatically, just breaks. Quietly. The way things break when they've been held together for a very long time. Suya, I stopped, she says. I stopped waiting, and I was okay. She looks at him. But I need you to understand what you missed. Not to hurt you, just so you know what trying looks like from here. He nods, cannot speak. She watches him, and then, slowly, for the first time, she does something she has never done in this house. She reaches over and puts her hand over his. One small hand on his. The eggs were terrible, she says. He makes a sound, half laugh, half something else entirely. I know, he manages. The rice is better. Much better. The soup is getting there. He looks at her hand on his. Suya. I'm sorry. Not the school gate sorry. Not the puddle sorry. The real one. The one that has been waiting 11 years to be said in this specific room to this specific person. I am so sorry. For the window. For all of it. She squeezes his hand once. I know, she says. Ashley is not marking. She heard footsteps above, heard the knock, heard the low murmur of voices. She sits with her cold tea, not listening, just aware. 20 minutes later, Lee comes downstairs. He stops when he sees her still there. You're still here. I was going to leave and then… She gestures at the ceiling. I didn't want to interrupt. He comes into the living room, sits, not across the room, on the same sofa. Different end, but the same sofa. She looks at him. His face is different, not broken, not the cold composure, just open. The way a room looks after a window has been opened in it for the first time in a long time. Is she okay? Ashley asks. He stops. She put her hand on mine. Ashley is quiet. She's never done that, he says. In a year, she has never… I didn't think she… He stops again. Ashley doesn't say anything. She just lets him have the sentence. All the parts of it he can't finish. And Lee, who does not sit on sofas with people, who does not have evenings, who does not let things break where anyone can see, sits on a sofa with a woman who has been watching him try for months, and lets it. She said she used to wait at the window for me, he says. I know, Ashley says quietly. She told me. He looks at her. She talks to you. She talks to me. About everything? About the things she needs to say out loud to someone. Ashley turns slightly toward him. She's extraordinary, Lee. What you have there, that girl, she is extraordinary. I know. She forgives more than she lets on. I know. She's been watching you try. She told me. Did she tell you that she notices every single thing? The eggs, the rice, the school gate, the pleas. He looks at Ashley. She told you about the pleas. She told me about the pleas. What did she say? Ashley looks at her cold tea. She said, a small pause. She said that was the day she started to believe you. The room is very still. One word, he says. One word, Ashley says. That's all it took. He leans forward, elbows on his knees, looking at the floor. I don't know how to do this, he says. Any of this. The father part. He stops. I built an empire. I know how to build things. I know how to protect things. I don't know how to be with people, Ashley says. He looks at her. Yes, I know, she says. Is it that obvious? The crackers, she says. The crackers were the first sign. He looks at her. She looks back. And something happens in the space between them. Not a moment with music, not a dramatic shift. Just two people on a sofa in a quiet house after a hard evening, looking at each other, seeing each other. You stayed, he says. I'm still here. You didn't have to. I know. After everything, the puddle, the gate, Lee, you stayed. She looks at him steadily. I stayed, she says. I'm still here. He looks at her. For a long time. Long enough that it means something. Long enough that they both know it means something. And then, because he is Kang Lee, and he does not rush things he cannot take back, he breathes. It's late, he says. It is. You should go. I should. Neither of them moves. 3 seconds. She stands up, picks up her bag. Good night, Lee. Good night. She walks to the door. Ashley. She turns. He is still on the sofa, looking at her. Thank you, he says, for staying. She looks at him for one long moment. Good night, she says again, and goes. Suya watches from her room. She watches Ashley walk down the stone path, watches the light in her father's study come on, watches Ashley's light in the residence come on. 2 lit windows, same dark night, stone path between them. She presses her hand against the glass, thinks about a little girl at another window a long time ago, waiting. I'm not waiting this time, she thinks. I'm watching, and it's almost there. Saturday morning. It is not a special day, no occasion, no setup, no Jong-soo strategically unavailable, no landscaping excuse, no rice on the stove, just a Saturday morning with good light and birds doing whatever birds do, and Ashley coming up the path in a yellow dress, not a blazer, not a work outfit, just a yellow dress because it is Saturday, carrying 2 cups of coffee because she made extra, and it seemed wasteful not to. Lee is coming down the path. No coat, no suit, dark shirt, dark trousers, the civilian version of himself that still somehow looks like a man who runs something. They meet, middle of the path. As always, he looks at the 2 cups. One of those mine. I made extra, she says. He takes it. They stand there. Which is new? Usually one of them steps into the garden, and the other passes. Today, neither of them does that. They just stand, on the path, drinking coffee. Yellow, he says. She looks at him. The dress, he says. I'm aware of the color of my dress. It's, he stops. It's what? Good. She looks at him. Good. Yes. You think my dress is good. I think you look. Another stop. He takes a sip of coffee. Looks at the garden. Looks back at her. You look good, Ashley. She blinks. Not the blinking of a woman who doesn't know what he's saying. The blinking of a woman who knows exactly what he's saying and is deciding what to do about it. Lee, I know. We live on the same property. I know. I teach your daughter. I know. We have a... Ashley. She stops. He looks at her, directly. No coat, no apparatus, no Jong-soo. Just a man on a stone path with 2 cups of coffee and 11 months of trying and 1 yellow dress that finally made him stop calculating and start talking. I'm not good at this, he says. I want to be clear about that up front. I know you're not. I don't do... He gestures vaguely at the space between them. This. I know that too. I have tried, he says, every wrong way to be around you. I was arrogant. I was dismissive. I told Jong-soo to say nothing about things I should have said myself. I made soup that wasn't good enough. It got better, she says. It got better, he agrees. Because I kept making it. She is very still. I don't know how to say this without it sounding like a negotiation, he says, which I know it isn't. So I'm just going to say it. Okay. I want... He stops, starts again. You stayed. When you didn't have to. After the puddle and the gate and the windows and everything. I didn't tell you about this house. You stayed because of Suya. And I know that. Lee, I'm not finished. She waits. You stayed because of Suya, he says. But I need you to know that He exhales. I wake up, and the first thing I think is whether you've eaten. I stand in doorways I have no reason to stand in. I make rice on Thursdays. I made soup 11 times trying to get it right. 11. Jong-soo counted. Of course he did. The point, Lee says, with the focused dignity of a man who has come too far to be derailed by Jong-soo, is that I want to keep making it. The soup, the rice, he gestures at the path. Whatever this is. The path. The path. Yes. A pause. I want to keep walking it. With you. The birds. The morning light. The coffee getting slightly cold. Ashley looks at him for a long time. You know, she says, for a man who doesn't do this, that was actually quite good. Don't patronize me. I'm not, she says. I mean it. She looks at her coffee. You're difficult, she says. I know. You're stubborn. I know. You stepped into my garden every morning instead of just asking me to move. The path is narrow. The path is plenty wide. He is quiet. Lee. Ashley. I also wake up thinking about whether you've eaten. He looks at her. I also stand in rooms I have no reason to be in, she says. I also made the extra coffee today for no official reason. No official reason? None whatsoever. The corner of his mouth, the one that never moves. So, she says, don't step into the garden anymore. I won't. Just walk the path. Just walk the path. Together. Together? She nods. He nods. They stand on the path, drinking their coffee. Neither of them quite smiling, both of them entirely smiling. Lee came closer, moved to kiss Ashley, and paused. Paused to check for a resistant, a pull away. But Ashley didn't. He gently planted a kiss on her lips. And that was the beginning of something special. Second floor window, Suya's room, Suya and Steve. Both watching. Steve's mouth is open. Did he just, yes? And she said, yes, on the path. On the path. That we arranged. Yes. Steve turns to Suya. Suya. Steve. We did that. We did. With a landscaping project and a soup and a physics teacher and a biblical argument. And rice, Suya adds. Don't forget the rice. He looks back at the window, at Lee and Ashley standing on the path, not moving, just standing together. Suya, he says quietly. Win-win. She looks at the path, at her father, at Ashley in the yellow dress. Win-win, she says. He didn't step into the garden anymore. She brought 2 cups of coffee every morning. Yong-soo cried a little bit in private and will deny this forever. The soup became excellent. The path became theirs. And somewhere between the puddle and the pleas and the stone path on a Saturday morning, 2 people who had no business falling for each other fell. Completely. Without even trying. Or with 2 12-year-olds trying on their behalf. Which is basically the same thing. After dinner that night in the kitchen, they were washing up. Steve has been assigned drying. He is doing this with significantly less enthusiasm than he brought to the plantain. Ashley washes. Lee, who has never washed a dish in this kitchen, is standing beside her. I can do that, he says. You can dry, she says. I don't dry. Tonight you dry. He picks up a cloth. Dries. They stand at the sink, shoulders almost touching. Not quite. Good dinner, he says. Your rice was excellent. It was. Don't be smug about it. I'm not smug. Your face is being smug. My face is expressing appropriate satisfaction. That's smug. Steve, drying a bowl in the corner, is vibrating with suppressed entertainment. Suya appears in the kitchen doorway, looks at the 3 of them at the sink, looks at her father, at Ashley, at her father's shoulder, almost touching Ashley's shoulder. She leans against the doorframe. Dad. The kitchen goes quiet. Not dramatically, just quiet. Lee turns slowly. Suya is looking at the floor. 1 word, said like she's tried it out in private and decided tonight is the night. The rice was really good, she says, still looking at the floor. Dad. She looks up, meets his eyes, and there it is. Full. Real. Dad. Lee looks at his daughter, at her 12-year-old face, at the girl who waited at the window, who stopped waiting, who started watching instead, who put her hand on his, who said I know about the window in the dark, who just, Dad. He crosses the kitchen in 3 steps, hugs her, properly, not the careful, barely there contact of a man who doesn't know if he's allowed. Properly. She lets him. She hugs him back, both arms. The kitchen is very quiet. Steve is staring at his bowl. Ashley is staring at the sink. Yong-soo, passing the doorway on the way to somewhere, stops, sees, keeps walking. Fastest he has ever kept walking. She said it once, just once, attached to a compliment about rice, in a kitchen, on a Sunday, with no fanfare, because Suya doesn't do fanfare, she does honest. And honest, that night, was 1 word, Dad. He held on to it for the rest of the evening. He is still holding on to it. He will hold on to it for a very long time. 4 months later. It is not a big wedding. It was never going to be a big wedding. Lee does not do big. Ashley does not do unnecessary. They discussed it once on the path over coffee and agreed in approximately 4 minutes. And that was that. Small, private, real. The venue is a warm room with good light and flowers that Ashley chose and chairs that Jong-soo arranged, and a minister who looks slightly overwhelmed by the guest list, which is short but somehow still intimidating because 3 of Lee's men are in suits by the door, looking like they came to either witness a wedding or prevent one, depending on what happens. Ashley is in ivory. Not a big dress, not a production. Just a beautiful woman in a beautiful dress with gold earrings, the good pair, and her hair down for the first time anyone in this room has seen it down. And it is, to no one's surprise, extraordinary. Lee is in a dark suit, Of course he is. He is always in a dark suit. He will probably be buried in a dark suit. He is standing at the front of the room, and Yong-soo is beside him because Lee looked at his very short list of options for who stands beside him, and Jong-soo was the answer, and Jong-soo has been quietly emotional about this since Tuesday, and is managing it with tremendous professionalism. Back of the room, Suya and Steve, side by side. Suya is in a soft blue dress, hair down, looking at the front of the room with the quiet satisfaction of a general surveying a won battle. Steve is in a suit that fits him almost correctly. He is looking at his mother, walking toward the front of the room. Suya, he says quietly. We did this. We arranged the conditions. We absolutely did this. They did this, she says. We just arranged the conditions. Yes, the path, the soup, and the physics teacher helped a lot. A necessary catalyst. The biblical argument. Also necessary. He looks at Ashley reaching the front of the room, looks at Lee's face when he sees her. Suya. Look at his face. She looks. Lee is looking at Ashley the way a man looks at something he built from nothing and cannot quite believe is real and would protect with everything he has. I know, Suya says. He never looks like that. I know. She did that. They did that, Suya says. To each other. Steve is quiet for a moment. Are you happy? He asks. She looks at her father, at Ashley, at the room full of people who came for this small, real thing, at Jong-soo dabbing his eye with a handkerchief and pretending he isn't. Yes, she says, simply, completely. Yes. The ceremony was short, real. The minister says the things ministers say. Lee says I do with the focused certainty of a man making a decision he has already made and is simply filing officially. Ashley says I do with the warm directness of a woman who means every word of everything she says. He puts the ring on her finger. She looks at it, looks at him. The soup, she says quietly, just for him, is excellent now, he says, just for her. She laughs. The real one. Head back, gold earrings, all the way in her face. He is smiling, not the corner of the mouth, a full smile, possibly the first full smile he has produced in this decade. Jong-soo makes a sound that is aggressively not crying. You may kiss, the minister starts. He already has. Steve watches this, processes it, turns to Suya. Suya. Steve. Does this make me? He looks at Lee. Is he now my stepfather? She says. Yes. And you're my stepsister. He looks at her. She looks at him. So, he says slowly, the girl who told me I was good at one subject is your stepsister. Yes. And I have to see you. Every day. Forever. Essentially. He looks at the ceiling. Does this mean, he says carefully, that your father, who is very large and has very scary eyes, is now technically my stepfather, Suya says. Yes. And his, Steve gestures at the three men by the door, people, are technically your extended family, in a manner of speaking. He looks at the men by the door. One of them nods at him. He nods back very carefully. Suya, he says. Yes. Does this make me Mafia now? She looks at him, looks at the men by the door, looks back at him. Not officially, she says. But don't push it. He grins. She shakes her head. But she is smiling, the real one, the full 12-year-old one. And Steve, who has no father and once sat in a car for 19 minutes before his curiosity overwhelmed him, looks at the front of the room where his mother is laughing in ivory with a man who makes excellent rice. And smiles too. And that, right there, is how it ended, or started, depending on how you look at it. A mafia boss who couldn't make eggs, a Jamaican teacher who didn't get the memo about being afraid, a daughter who waited at a window, and a boy who lasted 19 minutes in a car. It started with a puddle, it ended with a path, and somewhere in between, there was rice, and soup that took 11 attempts, and a biblical argument delivered by a 12-year-old, and a please that changed everything, and a yellow dress on a Saturday morning, and two people who had no business falling for each other, who fell anyway, completely, without even trying. His daughter chose her. Then she insulted a mafia boss and married him. Now these are two lessons to take home from this story. Lesson 1. Showing up late is not the same as not showing up. Lee left. He was gone for 10 years, and when he came back, he had nothing but terrible eggs and a stubborn will to try. He didn't arrive with a speech. He didn't buy forgiveness. He just showed up. Every day, in the doorway, on the path, at the stove, saying please when he had never said please to anyone. And slowly, not quickly, not easily, but slowly, his daughter started calling him Dad. The lesson is this: it is never too late to try, but trying has to look like something. Words are nothing. Eggs are something. Rice is something. Soup 11 times is something. If you have walked away from someone who needed you, go back, show up, and keep showing up. Even when they don't look up when you walk in, especially then. Lesson 2. The right person will not be intimidated by who you are. They will be interested in who you're trying to become. Every person Lee had ever met either feared him or needed something from him. Ashley Campbell got drenched by his car and told him his apology wasn't good enough. She walked into his house and rearranged his spice rack. She sat on his sofa after a hard evening and just stayed. Not because of his money, not because of his power, not despite his walls, but because underneath all of it, she saw a man making soup 11 times trying to get it right. And that was enough. The right person doesn't complete you. They sit beside you while you figure out how to complete yourself. And they bring 2 cups of coffee without being asked. Find that person. Or better yet, be that person. Thank you for watching. And if this story moved you, please share it to someone you think needs it. And if you're new here, please hit the subscription and notification bell, as this is the only way you can support us.